SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Namaskar. Good afternoon. Myself, I am Dhirendra Praladbhai Suthar. I teach English at Srimati A.P. Patel Arts and late Sri N.P. Patel Commerce College, Naroda, Ahmedabad. Today, I am here at AGIC studio in order to deliver a lecture on the diamond necklace. It's a lesson number 10, which is prescribed in Gujarat University's textbook for General English, Gems of Wisdom. Diamond necklace is written by Guy D. Maupassant, Henry Albert Maupassant. The diamond necklace, as you can see the photograph, its original title was The Necklace. You can see there is a woman and there is a jewelry. અહીંયા આપણે જોઈ શકીએ છીએ કે એક સ્ત્રી છે અને એના ગળા પર એક નેકલેસ છે જે કોસ્ટલી છે અને સાથે સાથે એક સ્ત્રી જે સુંદર છે, નેચરલ બ્યુટી અને સાથે સાથે અહીંયા મટીરિયલ બ્યુટી બંનેનું એક કોમ્બિનેશન છે, જેમાં લેખક આપણને બતાવે છે કે ભૌતિક બ્યુટી પાછળ આપણે જ્યારે પડીએ છીએ ત્યારે આપણી નેચરલ બ્યુટીનો ચોક્કસ વ્યય થાય છે. Today we are going to see the diamond necklace. In the first part we shall discuss about the author, and in second part we are going to discuss about the story itself. Dear students, તમે જે અત્યારે જોઈ રહ્યા છો તે ફોટોગ્રાફ છે જે આપણા લેખકનો છે, ગાય ડી માઉપાસન્ટ, જે એક ફોટોગ્રાફ આપણે પરથી એમની ઉંમર અને એમનો જે એક પ્રકારનો ભાવ છે એ આપણે જોઈ શકીએ છીએ. અને આ જે લેસન છે એક ફ્રેન્ચ રાઇટર લખે છે આપણી સામે. Author himself is a French writer કે જેમનો જન્મ ઓગસ્ટ 5, 1850ના રોજ થયો હતો. Our author was born on August 5, 1850. Guy D. Maupassant, his first name is Henry René Albert Guy D. Maupassant. Maupass, when we speak about his surname Maupass, we are not supposed to speak t at the end. જે રીતે રિનોલ્ટ એનો સ્પેલિંગ RENAULT છે, પણ આપણે એને રેનો બોલીએ છીએ. શેવરોલે એના સ્પેલિંગની અંદર પણ છેલ્લે ટી છે, છતાં તે સાયલેન્ટ રહે છે. ધીસ ઇઝ હાઉ Maupassant was and is its utterance and pronunciation. Guy D. Maupassant was a French short story writer. He was born in an affluent family in France. As a child, Guy adored his mother and loathed his absent father. His mother was very literary and passed on her love of books to her son. So this is his early childhood, where he was taken the kind of features which are imbibed in him. He has a brother whose name was his brother name was Herve, HERVE. So these are the kind of family members in which he was living. He had a father, but his father had left his mother for particular reasons, and reasons are not known. As a writer, his literary output is so vast. His literary output is so vast. He had written some 300 short stories, 6 novels, 3 travel books. He could write so many books just because he traveled a lot. He traveled a lot, and traveling helped him to get experience of various places. He had written, as I said, 300 short stories. આપણા જે લેખક છે ફ્રેન્ચ શોર્ટ સ્ટોરી રાઇટર તરીકે જાણીતા છે. એમના સાહિત્યિક પ્રદાનની અંદર 300થી વધારે એ કહી શકાય એટલી ટૂંકી વાર્તાઓ એમને લખેલી છે. 6 novels, 3 travel books and other volume of works. એટલે આપણે એમ કહી શકીએ કે મલ્ટી ફેસેડ પર્સનાલિટી છે. The necklace, original name, as you can say, the diamond necklace original name was the necklace, and in French language the name of the necklace is La Parure. La Parure in French first appeared in the Parisian newspaper Les Gaulois in 1884. The story was an immediate success, and Maupas later included it in his short story collection Tales of Day and Night. The Franco-Persian War erupted shortly after Maupassant finished his college education. Maupassant enlisted as a volunteer, and then in 1871 left the army to work as a clerk in the navy for the 10 years. During this time he became close with Gustav Flaubert. Gustav Flaubert became his friend. He befriended with Flaubert. તો આપણે એ જોયું કે ધ નેકલેસ ને ફ્રેન્ચ લેંગ્વેજમાં એનું ઓરિજિનલ ટાઇટલ હતું લા પરુરે. તે ફર્સ્ટ પેરિસિયન ન્યૂઝપેપર લે ગૌલોઇસની અંદર પબ્લિશ થયો 1884ની અંદર. The story was an immediate success, and later Maupas included it in his short story collection. The title which he chose, he named it as Tales of Day and Night, જે 1885માં પબ્લિશ થઈ હતી. In 1921, the story was adapted into British silent film. The story was also adapted in 1926 into the Chinese film A String of Pearls, directed by Li Jiayuan. 1921ની અંદર આ જે ડાયમંડ નેકલેસ જે આપણા સિલેબસમાં છે તેને બ્રિટિશ સાયલન્ટ ફિલ્મમાં પરિવર્તિત કરવામાં આવ્યું હતું. એટલે એના પરથી એક ફિલ્મ બની હતી. ધ સ્ટોરી વોઝ એડપ્ટેડ ઇન 1926 ઇન્ટુ અ ચાઇનીઝ ફિલ્મ જેનું ટાઇટલ હતું એ સ્ટ્રિંગ ઓફ પર્લ્સ. એટલે કે બ્રિટિશ અને ચાઇનીઝ એટલે કે ઈસ્ટર્ન વર્લ્ડ અને વેસ્ટર્ન વર્લ્ડ એ બંને વર્લ્ડની અંદર આ જે સ્ટોરી છે એ સ્ટોરીની ફિલ્મ બનાવવામાં આવી છે. સૌપ્રથમ એક સાયલન્ટ ફિલ્મ બનાવવામાં આવી હતી વે બેક ઇન 1921. એના 5 વર્ષ પછી ઇન 1926 એને ચાઇનીઝ ફિલ્મની અંદર પરિવર્તિત કરવામાં આવી હતી, જેનું નામ ચાઇનીઝ ફિલ્મ બનાવવામાં આવી હતી કે જે ઓડિયો વિડીયો સાથેની હતી, જે સાયલન્ટ નહોતી, પરંતુ એનું ટાઇટલ કંઈક જુદું જ રાખવામાં આવ્યું હતું. એ ટાઇટલ એ સ્ટ્રિંગ ઓફ પર્લ્સ એમ રાખવામાં આવ્યું હતું, જેને લી જેયુઆન દ્વારા ડાયરેક્ટ કરવામાં આવ્યું હતું. આજે આપણી સ્ટોરી છે, આપણા જે લેખક છે માઉપાસ, ધ ડાયમંડ નેકલેસ, કે જેને એક એમી એવોર્ડ આપવામાં આવ્યો હતો. ધ ફર્સ્ટ એમી એવોર્ડ was given to producer Stanley Rubinford for his adaptation of The Necklace, which was the first episode of Rubin's NBC TV series Your Show Time, which was telecast in 1949. 1949માં NBC ટીવી પર રૂબિનની એક સિરીઝ શરૂ થઈ હતી. એ સિરીઝમાં એક એપિસોડ, અને એ એપિસોડ સૌ પ્રથમ એપિસોડ હતો. એ એપિસોડ એ આપણી આ સ્ટોરીનો હતો, જેનું નામ છે ધી નેકલેસ ઓર ધી ડાયમંડ નેકલેસ, અને એ શોનું નામ હતું યોર શો ટાઈમ. તો મિત્રો, તમે અહીંયા જોઈ શકો છો કે આ એક એવી સ્ટોરી છે કે જે એવોર્ડ પણ જીતી શકે છે. એટલે કે આ સ્ટોરીનું વિષય વસ્તુ ને આપણા લેખકની લેંગ્વેજ પરની પકડ અને ચોઇસ ઓફ સબ્જેક્ટ એટલા ઉત્કૃષ્ટ છે કે જેના દ્વારા અહીંયા આપણને એક ખ્યાલ રહે છે કે આ સ્ટોરીનો જે વ્યાપ છે એ માત્ર ફ્રાન્સની અંદર જ નહીં કે ઇંગ્લેન્ડની અંદર જ નહીં, પણ એશિયા ખંડની અંદર પણ આ સ્ટોરીને ભણી લેવામાં આવી છે, અને એના ઉપર ચોક્કસ પ્રકારની સિરિયલ્સ, ફિલ્મ્સ વગેરે બનતા આવ્યા છે. જ્યારે આપણા લેખક કોલેજમાં હતા ત્યારે એમના એક મિત્ર, એટલે એમની જોડે જ ભણતા હતા, ગુસ્તાવ ફ્લોબર્ટ. તો એ એમના ફ્રેન્ડ હોવાને નાતે, એમની સાથે મિત્રતા હોવાને નાતે, અને એના લીધે એ બંને ખાસ એક પ્રકારની સાહિત્યિક આદાન પ્રદાન પણ એકબીજા સાથે કરતા હતા. અને આપણે જોઈ શકીએ છીએ કે ફ્લાઉબર્ટ્સ ઇન્ફ્લુઅન્સ એ માઉપાસ પર ચોક્કસ પ્રકારે જોવા મળતી હતી. અને આ જે લેસન છે, ધી નેકલેસ એન્ડ ધ સ્ટોરી ઓફ ધ ડાયમંડ નેકલેસ is in many ways similar to Madame Bovary. Madame Bovary was a story written by Flaubert. So a necklace જે આપણું આ એક લેસન છે એની અંદર માઉપાસ એના એક ફ્રેન્ડ પરથી ઇન્સ્પાયર થયા છે. એક ઇન્ફ્લુઅન્સ એમની અહીંયા આપણને જોવા મળે છે કે એમને એમના મિત્રની કોઈ સ્ટોરી વાંચી હતી, મેડમ બોવારી, એના પરથી જ આ ધ નેકલેસ જે સ્ટોરી છે એ લીધેલી હોય, એનું વિષય વસ્તુ લીધેલું હોય તેવું આપણને ચોક્કસપણે લાગી રહ્યું છે. વી કેન ડેફિનેટલી કમ ટુ ધ સમ અઝમ્પશન્સ દેટ હી ચોઝ ધ સબ્જેક્ટ ફ્રોમ હિઝ ફ્રેન્ડ્સ સ્ટોરી. His friend, as you know, Flaubert's story, and the story's title was, as you can see, Madame Bovary. First of all, આપણે એવું જોયું કે માઉપાસને ફ્લોબર્ટની ઇન્ફ્લુઅન્સ હતી, એનાથી ઇન્સ્પાયર થયા હતા. હવે આ સ્લાઇડ પરથી આપણે એવું જોઈ શકીએ છીએ કે he sought to explore deeper meanings of every events, and his writing style has influenced literary greats such as Anthony Chekhov and Omar Henry. મૌપાસની જે આ સ્ટોરી છે, મૌપાસના જે લિટરરી વર્ક છે તેના પરથી ખૂબ જ વિદ્વાન કહી શકાય તેવા રાઇટર્સ એન્થોની ચેખવ અને ઓમર હેનરી, કે જે અમેરિકાના ઓમર હેનરી છે, અને એમની શોર્ટ સ્ટોરી ખૂબ જ ઇન્ટરેસ્ટિંગ હોય છે અને એનો એન્ડ ખૂબ જ ટ્વિસ્ટ સાથે આપણને મળતો હોય તેવું આપણને ચોક્કસ લાગે છે. ઓમર હેનરી. જ્યારે આપણે મૌપાસની વાત કરતા હોઈએ ત્યારે એક શોર્ટ સ્ટોરી રાઇટર, એક ટ્રાવેલ રાઇટર ની સાથે સાથે તે એક સારા કવિ પણ છે. હી હેઝ બીન અ વેરી ગુડ પોએટ, ને એમને નોવેલ્સ પણ લખેલી છે જેનું અહીંયા આપણે કેટલીક કૃતિઓ જોઈ શકીએ છીએ. વી કેન સી હિયર some successful novels of our writer. Our writer has written novels also. The first among them is, we can count them as, one is Unwhy, which came out in 1883. એમની પ્રથમ નોવેલ જે છે અનવાય પબ્લિશ્ડ થઈ હતી 1883ની અંદર. સેકન્ડ નોવેલ કેમ ઇન્ટુ બિંગ, પબ્લિશ્ડ ઇન 1885, જેનું ટાઇટલ છે બેલ એમી. And the next novel of the writer is The Pierre et Jean, which published in 1888. તો મિત્રો અહીંયા આપણે શકીએ છીએ કે આપણા જે રાઇટર છે એમની કેટલીક નોવેલ્સ છે જે આપણે એના પર જરાક ધ્યાન આપીશું. અનવાય 1883માં પબ્લિશ થઈ હતી. ત્યાર પછી બેલ એમી 1885માં, અને પાયર એટ જીન 1888માં પબ્લિશ થઈ હતી. આ ત્રણ નવલકથાઓ જે છે એ કહી શકાય કે એની સફળ નવલકથાઓમાંની છે. હી ટ્રેવલ્ડ એક્સટેન્સિવલી, પ્રોડ્યુસ્ડ રાઇટિંગ ઓન રોડ, રાઇટિંગ ન્યૂઝપેપર આર્ટિકલ્સ, essays, fiction and travelogues. Our author was a rich person, but he had some problem, so he couldn't get married. As you can see this through this slide, despite his wealth and popularity, Maupas never married. એની પાછળનું એક કારણ એવું હોઈ શકે કે તેના ફાધર જે હતા એની મધરને એને એના ભાઈને છોડીને કોઈ સ્ત્રી માટે છોડીને જતા રહ્યા હોય, એ કારણથી એ પોતે પણ ઈચ્છતો હતો કે એ ક્યારેય આ રીતે કોઈને છોડી ના દે અને એનો પ્રેમ એના જીવનથી ક્યારેય દૂર ના થાય. એટલા માટે એવું બની શકે કે એને લગ્ન ન કર્યા હોય, કે જે એક્સપિરિયન્સ એની મધરને મળ્યો છે તે એક્સપિરિયન્સ તે પોતે બીજા કોઈની પાસેથી લેવા માગતો નહોતો, કે કોઈને એવો ખરાબ એક્સપિરિયન્સ આપવા નહોતો માગતો. તો અહીંયા જોઈ શકો છો કે ડિસ્પાઇટ હિઝ વેલ્થ એન્ડ પોપ્યુલારિટી, મૌપાસ never married, partly out of fear, being abandoned by a loved one, as he was abandoned by his father. Next slide is of our author, Guy de Maupassant. You can see it, died on the date July 6, 1893. એના મૃત્યુ માટે એવું કહેવાય છે કે એને મેરેજ નહોતા કર્યા અને એના પછી as he grew older, Maupassant became more withdrawn and obsessed with death. His infection with syphilis contributed to his growing dementia, and he was institutionalized after he tried to kill himself in 1891. He died 2 years later on July 6, 1893. Well, friends, we can see that he tried to commit suicide because he was very unhappy during the later ages of his life, because he felt somewhat insecure. He tried to commit a suicide, but he was not successful in committing suicide, following which he lived for more 2 years, and in 1893 he died. Dear friends, before we go to the second part, here is a kind of audio book. We have an audio book of the lesson which we are supposed to study. Audio book એક એવી વસ્તુ છે, એક એવી ડિવાઇસ છે કે જેની અંદર આખી જે સ્ટોરી છે, આખી સ્ટોરીને ચોક્કસ રીતે તમે જોઈ શકો છો કે આ સ્ટોરીને જુદા જુદા કેરેક્ટર દ્વારા એને પ્રેઝન્ટ કરવામાં આવે છે. ઓડિયો બુક એટલે કે આપણે બુક વાંચવાની જરૂર પડતી નથી, અને જો બુક આપણી સામે હોય તો આપણે એ બુકને સામે રાખીને જે ડાયલોગ્સ બોલાય છે એ ડાયલોગ્સને આપણે સાંભળીએ છીએ, અને જેમ જેમ પેજ ઓવર થાય, we can flap our page, change the page, and we can just concentrate on the dialogues and the narration of the story. તો ઓડિયો બુક દ્વારા જુદા જુદા ડાયલોગ્સ, જુદી પ્રકારનું નેરેશન, કેવા મૂડ્સ, કેવા ઇન્ટોનેશન્સ, કઈ સ્ટાઇલથી બોલવામાં આવે છે. તો આ જે પાર્ટ 1 છે આપણો, એની અંદર ડાયમંડ નેકલેસનું જે ઓડિયો છે તે ઓડિયો આપણે સાંભળીશું. ફર્સ્ટ ઓફ ઓલ, વી આર ગોઈંગ ટુ લિસન ધી ઓડિયો, આઈ કુડ સે ઓડિયો બુક ઓફ ડાયમંડ નેકલેસ. તમે જોઈ શકો છો કે અહીંયા ફોટોગ્રાફ છે ડાયમંડ નેકલેસનો, જે એકદમ કોસ્ટલી એક જ્યુઅલ, જે લેડી માટેનું ખાસ એક ઓર્નામેન્ટ છે. એટલે કે આપણી જે સ્ટોરી છે એમાં મુખ્યત્વે 3 પાત્રો છે. તે 3 પાત્રોની આસપાસ જ આપણી સ્ટોરી વણાયેલી છે. મેથિલ્ડે લોઇઝેલ એ હિરોઈન છે. બીજું એક કેરેક્ટર છે આપણી પાસે, તે એનો હસબન્ડ છે મોન્ઝિયર લોઇઝેલ. મેથિલ્ડે લોઇઝેલને ક્યારેક મિસિસ લોઇઝેલ તરીકે પણ આપણે ઓળખીએ છીએ. અને જ્યારે બંનેની વાત કરી હોય, મેથિલ્ડે લોઇઝેલ અને મોન્ઝિયર લોઇઝેલની, તો આપણે લોઇઝેલ્સ એ રીતે એ બંનેને પ્રોનાઉન્સ કરીએ છીએ. એટલે કે બંનેની વાત એની અંદર થતી હોય છે. એટલે કે આખું એમનું ફેમિલી વી ટેક ઇન ટુ એન અકાઉન્ટ, એ આખા ફેમિલીની વાત ત્યાં કરીએ છીએ. અને એક ત્રીજું પાત્ર છે આપણી આ સ્ટોરીની અંદર, તેનું નામ છે મેડમ ફોરેસ્ટર. મેડમ ફોરેસ્ટર એ મેથિલ્ડે લોઇઝેલની સ્કૂલ સમયની એક મિત્ર છે, અને આ એક મિત્ર હોવાના નાતે એના ઘરે મેથિલ્ડેના ઘરે જ્યારે પણ આવે ત્યારે મેથિલ્ડે તે ખુશ તેનાથી થતી નથી, કારણ કે મેડમ ફોરિસ્ટર ખૂબ જ રીચ છે અને તેનાથી તેને એક પ્રકારની એનવી થતી હોય છે. તો ફર્સ્ટ ઓફ ઓલ આઈ એમ ગોઈંગ ટુ પ્લે ઓડિયો બુક ઓફ ધ ડાયમંડ નેકલેસ. પ્લીઝ લિસન ધીસ કેરફુલી. અને હું એક્સપેક્ટ કરું કે તમારી પાસે બુક હોય અને તમે આ બુકને ઓપન કરો અને જે રીતે અહીંયા નેરેશન થાય છે એ નેરેશન પ્રમાણે તમે એને એ પ્રમાણે એડજસ્ટ થાવ તો તમને બહુ જ મજા આવશે અને તમને ઇન્ટરેસ્ટિંગ સ્ટોરી ખરેખર લાગશે, એમાં કોઈ શક નથી.
Chatterbox Audio Theatre presents The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant.
She was one of those pretty and charming girls born, as if by some error of fate, into a family of minor civil servants. She had no dowry, no expectations, no means of meeting a man of wealth and distinction who would understand, love, and wed her. So she let herself be married off to a low-level clerk in the Ministry of Education. Her tastes were simple, for she had never been able to afford anything better, but she was unhappy as if she had married beneath her station. Women have neither caste nor class, and if they are not of noble birth, they can still use their beauty, grace, and charm as calling cards. A woman's natural guile, her instinctive elegance, and her talent for repartee are her only marks of rank, so that a poor girl with no lineage may easily be on a level with the highest lady in the land. She suffered endlessly, for she felt she was intended for a life of refinement and luxury. She suffered because of the run-down apartment they lived in, the peeling walls, the battered chairs, and the ugly curtains. All these things, which other women of her station may not even have noticed, tormented her and insulted her pride. The spectacle of the young Breton girl who did the household chores stirred sad regrets and impossible fancies. She dreamed of silent antechambers hung with oriental tapestries, lit by tall, bronze candelabras, and of 2 tall footmen in knee breeches dozing in the huge armchairs, overcome by the heavy heat of the stove. She dreamed of vast drawing rooms dressed with antique silks, exquisite pieces of furniture displaying priceless ornaments, and of small, charming, perfumed sitting rooms created just for tea-time gatherings of one's most intimate friends, who would be the most famous and sought-after personalities of the day, men whose attentions were much coveted and desired by all women. When she sat down to dinner at the round table covered with a 3-day-old cloth, opposite her husband who always lifted the lid of the soup tureen and declared delightedly,
"Ah, beef stew. Splendid. There's nothing I like better than a nice stew."
She dreamed of elegant dinners, gleaming silverware, and of being surrounded by hanging tapestries representing mythical characters and strange birds in enchanted forests. She dreamed of exquisite dishes served on fabulous china plates, of hearing flirtatious compliments whispered into her ear while she maintained an inscrutable smile and ate the rosy flesh of a trout or the delicate wings of a grouse.
She had no fine dresses, no jewelry, nothing. And that was all she cared about. She felt that she had been made for such things. She would have given anything to be noticed, to be envied, to be attractive and in demand. She had a rich friend, a classmate from her convent school, on whom she never called now, for she was always so unhappy when she returned home. For days on end she would weep tears of sorrow, regret, despair, and anguish. One evening her husband came home, looking highly pleased with himself, holding a large envelope.
"Look, I have something for you."
The Minister of Education and Madame Georges Ramponneau request the pleasure of the company of Monsieur and Madame Loisel at the Ministry Ball on the evening of Monday, January 18th. What do you want me to do with this?
"Why, darling, I thought you'd be pleased. You'd never go anywhere, and it's an opportunity, a splendid opportunity. I had the hardest time getting a hold of an invitation. Everybody's after them. They're very much in demand, and not many are handed out to us clerks. You'll get to see all the important people there.
But what am I supposed to wear if I go?
What about the dress you wear for the theater? It looks all right to me.
The words died in his throat. He was totally disconcerted, dismayed by the sight of his wife, who had begun to cry. 2 large tears ran slowly down from the corners of her eyes towards the sides of her mouth.
What's the matter? What's the matter with you?
Making a supreme effort, she controlled her tears, and wiping her damp cheeks, replied in a calm voice.
Nothing's the matter. It's just that I haven't got anything to wear, and so I can't go to this ball. Give the invitation to one of your colleagues with a wife who's better off for clothes than I am.
Please, Mathilde. What would it cost to get something suitable that would do for other occasions? Something fairly simple.
She thought for a few moments, working out a budget in her mind, but also wondering how much she could decently ask for, without drawing an immediate refusal and a horrified protest from her husband, who was careful with his money.
I can't say precisely, but I believe I could do it on 400 francs.
He turned slightly pale, for this was exactly the amount he had been saving to buy himself a shotgun for the following summer. He had planned on joining some friends who spent their Sundays shooting larks in the lowlands of Nanterre.
Very well. I'll give you your 400 francs, but try to find a nice dress.
The day of the party drew near, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, worried, and anxious. Her dress was ready, however. One evening her husband said to her,
What's wrong? You've been acting very strangely these last few days.
It bothers me that I don't have a single piece of jewelry, not one stone that I can put on. I'll look completely drab. I would almost rather not go to the party.
Why don't you wear a few flowers? It's very elegant at this time of year. For 10 francs, you could get 2 or 3 magnificent roses.
No! There's nothing more humiliating than looking poor when you're surrounded by rich women.
How silly you are. Go and see your friend, Madame Forestier, and ask her to lend you some jewelry. You know her well enough for that.
You're right! I never thought of that.
The next day she called on her friend and told her all about her problem. Madame Forestier went over to her dressing table, took out a large box, brought it over, unlocked it, and said,
Choose whatever you like.
At first, she saw some bracelets, then a string of pearls, and a Venetian cross made of gold and gems of exquisite workmanship. She tried on a few necklaces before the mirror, hesitating, reluctant to take them off and give them back. Do you have anything else?
Yes, of course. Go ahead and keep searching. I don't know what you're looking for.
All of a sudden, she discovered, in a black satin case, a superb diamond necklace. Her heart began to beat wildly with desire. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. She fastened it around her throat over her high-necked dress and sat looking at herself in rapture.
Could you lend me this? Nothing else, just this.
Yes, certainly.
She threw her arms around her friend, kissing her extravagantly, and then ran home, taking her treasure with her. The day of the party arrived.
Madame Loisel was a success.
She was the prettiest woman there, elegant, graceful, radiant, and wonderfully happy.
All the men looked at her, inquired who she was, and asked to be introduced. All the cabinet secretaries and undersecretaries wanted to waltz with her. Even the minister noticed her.
She danced ecstatically, wildly, intoxicated with pleasure, giving no thought to anything else in the triumphant celebration of her beauty and her glorious success. She floated on a cloud of happiness made up of the universal homage and admiration she received, of the desire she had aroused, and the sense of complete victory, so sweet to a woman's heart.
She left at about 4 in the morning. Since midnight, her husband had been in a small, empty side room with 3 other gentlemen whose wives were having a wonderful time. He helped her put on the coat, which he had fetched when it was time to go, a commonplace everyday coat, strikingly at odds with the elegance of her dress. It brought her down to earth, and she was anxious to hurry away in order to avoid being noticed by the other women who were wrapping themselves up in their rich furs.
Wait! You'll catch cold outside. Let me go and catch a cab.
But she refused to listen to him and ran quickly down the stairs. When they were outside in the street, there was no cab in sight. They began looking for one, hailing all the cabbies they saw driving by in the distance. They walked down to the River Seine in desperation, shivering with cold. At last, they found on the embankment one of those age-old hackney cabs which only emerge in Paris after dark, as if ashamed to parade their poverty in the full light of day. It brought them back to their front door in the Rue des Martyrs, and they sadly walked up to their apartment.
It was all over for her.
And he was thinking he would have to be back at the ministry at 10.
Standing in front of the mirror, she took off the coat she had been wearing over her shoulders to get one last look at herself in all her glory. But suddenly she gave a cry.
Oh!
The necklace was no longer around her neck.
Madame Forestier's necklace, I don't have it anymore.
What? How? But that's impossible.
They searched in the pleats of her dress, in the folds of her coat, and in her pockets. They looked everywhere. They could not find it.
Are you sure you still had it on you when you left the ballroom?
Yes, I remember touching it in the entrance hall.
But if you had lost it in the street, we'd have heard it fall. So it must be in the cab.
That's right. That's probably it. Did you get the cab's number?
No. Did you happen to notice it?
No.
They looked at each other in total dismay. Finally, Loisel started to get dressed again.
I'm going to go back the way we came to see if I can find it.
And he went out. She remained as she was, still wearing her evening gown, not having the strength to go to bed, sitting disconsolately on a chair by the empty grate, her mind a blank. Her husband returned at about 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. He went to the police station, to the newspapers where he advertised a reward, toward the cab companies, and tried every possible place where the faintest of hopes compelled him to go. She waited for him all day long in the same distracted condition, thinking of the appalling catastrophe that had befallen them. Loisel came back that evening, his face lined and pale. He had not come up with anything.
You'll have to write to your friend and tell her you broke the clasp on her necklace and that you are getting it repaired. That'll give us time to work out what we'll have to do next.
She took down his dictation. A week later, they had lost all hope.
We must see about replacing the necklace.
The next day, they took the case in which the necklace had come and called on the jeweler whose name was inside. He looked through his registry and told them that he was not the one who had sold it, and that he must have only supplied the case. They then went from jeweler to jeweler, looking for another necklace just like the first one, trying to remember it, both of them ill with remorse and worry. In a shop in the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds that seemed to them completely identical to the one they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs. The jeweler was prepared to let them have it for 36,000. They asked him not to sell it for 3 days, and they got him to agree to take it back for 34,000 if the one that had been lost had been returned before the end of February.
Loisel had 18,000 francs, which his father had left him. He would have to borrow the rest. He borrowed the money.
1,000 francs here.
500 there.
Sometimes he borrowed 5 louis.
Other times as little as 3.
He signed promissory notes.
Agreed to pay exorbitant rates of interest.
Did business with usurers.
And the whole tribe of moneylenders.
He mortgaged the rest of his life, signed papers without knowing if he would ever be able to honor his commitments, and then, sick with worry about the future, frightened by the grim poverty which stood ready to pounce, and by the prospect of the physical deprivation and mental torture laying ahead, he went to the jeweler's to get the new necklace and put down on the counter 36,000 francs.
When Madame Loisel took the necklace back, Madame Forestier said in a huff,
You should really have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it.
She did not open the case, as her friend had feared she might. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she not have taken her for a thief? Madame Loisel came to know the ghastly life of those coping with abject poverty. From the very first, she resigned herself to what she could not alter, and behaved heroically. Their appalling debt would have to be repaid. She was determined to pay.
They dismissed the maid.
They moved out of their apartment.
They rented a top-floor garret.
She became used to heavy domestic work and the distasteful kitchen chores.
She washed the dirty dishes, wearing down her pink nails while scrubbing greasy pots in the bottom of saucepans.
She washed the dirty linen, the shirts and the tablecloth by hand, and hung them to dry on a line.
Every morning, she took the garbage down to the street and carried the water up the stairs, pausing to catch her breath on each landing.
And, dressed like any working-class woman, she shopped at the fruit sellers, the grocers,
and the butchers, with a basket on her arm, haggling, taking in verbal abuse, fighting over every wretched penny.
Every month, they had to pay off some notes,
renew others,
and bargain for time.
Her husband worked in the evenings keeping the books for a shopkeeper, and often at night did copying work for 5 sous a page.
They lived like this for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had repaid everything, every single franc, including the creditor's charges and the accumulation of compounded interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. She had turned into a kind of battling, hard, coarse housewife who rules working-class homes. Her hair was untidy, her skirts were askew, and her skin was red. She spoke in a loud voice and scrubbed floors on her hands and knees.
But sometimes, when her husband had gone to the office, she would sit by the window and think of that evening so long ago when she had been so beautiful and so admired. What would have happened had she not lost the necklace? Who could tell? Who could possibly tell? Life is so strange, so fickle. How remarkable that the slightest little thing can make or break us.
One Sunday, needing a break from her heavy working week, she went out for a walk on the Champs-Élysées. Suddenly she caught sight of a woman pushing a child in a stroller. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, and still attractive. Madame Loisel felt apprehensive. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. Now that she had paid in full, she would tell her everything. Why not? She went up to her.
Hello, Jeanne.
The friend didn't recognize her and was taken aback at being addressed so familiarly by a common woman in the street.
But I'm sorry. I don't know. There's some mistake.
No mistake. It's me, Mathilde Loisel.
But my poor Mathilde, how you have changed.
Yes, I've been through some hard times since I last saw you. Very hard times. And it was all on your account.
On my account? Whatever do you mean?
Do you remember that diamond necklace you lent me to go to the ministry ball?
Yes. What about it?
Well, I lost it.
Lost it? But you returned it to me.
No. I returned another necklace just like it. And for the last 10 years, we've been paying for it. You know, it wasn't easy for us. We had nothing. But it's over now and done with, and I'm very glad indeed.
You mean you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine?
Yes, and you never noticed the difference, did you? They were exactly alike.
Mathilde smiled a proud, innocent smile. Madame Forestier looked very upset, and taking both her hands, she said,
Oh, my poor Mathilde. But it was only a fake, an imitation. It could not have been worth much more than 500 francs.
Dear friends, I hope that you have enjoyed this audio book. We saw line to line presentation of the text which is in our syllabus. Now the story is very interesting, and it strongly reminds us of Omar Henry. In the first part of your TY, that was the Omar Henry's the textbook, the lesson you studied, that was the gift of Magi, how it ended. So this is how the lesson is the same as far as the intention, the interest and kind of suspense is concerned. The audiobook was a kind of a aid, kind of an assistance that teacher can use in the class. If students are able to understand, then we can have a broader use and they can be benefited. The moral of the story is that we should be satisfied, we should remain contented with what we have. If we expend a lot, if we take a loan, and if we try to show off, then we have to suffer a lot. In the next part we will talk about the story and questions. We will see some of the MCQs. So our part 2 would be comprised of the keeping in view the examination in mind. So second part would be based on the story, the characters and some of the themes. We should try to cover up those points in part 2. But the diamond necklace is a woman centric lesson in which we are informed that if we try to if we don't enjoy the God gifted beauty and we run after materialistic beauty, then we are going to ruin our life. So we should remain contented with what we have, otherwise we have to suffer, because there is no end of desire. Desires are unending, desires are unlimited. So dear students, in the second part, when we meet again, we talk about the story in Gujarati, we talk about some of the characters, we talk about the theme, and we should try also to take care of MCQs. For now, I think the time is up. We are going to wind up this session, part 1, which is based on the author and the text itself. So we have seen what our author is all about, Maupass, and we also saw about the story. The story, you know that it is a lengthy story. It runs around 10 pages or so, 10 pages long story. So it would take around 15 minutes to 16 minutes as far as the audio is concerned. So thank you for paying attention towards the audio book and having some perception, and I hope that you should have comprehended through this presentation. Thank you very much.
SANDHAN. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.